Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regularly scheduled school board meeting of November 8th, 2021. Before we begin the work of the district, let us stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Superintendent.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to have you all here tonight. Board, do we have any changes, additions, deletions to the agenda for this evening?
No, ma'am.
All right, we have an HR personnel transaction list and addendum that were added to the board docs today for items 9.01. And we are also pulling item 8.11 this evening for no action. And with that, I recommend approval of the minutes from the regular school board meeting, October 25th, 2021.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation.
So
Go ahead.
moved. Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 5-0. Okay. So now we're going to enter public input. And I just want to say that Lake County School Board welcomes you to this meeting. This time is set aside for the citizens of Lake County to address the school board. This is not a question and answer time. It is not a political forum, nor is it a time for personal accusations or derogatory remarks to or about school board personnel. If you'd like to address the school board, please come to the podium, speak into the microphone, state your name, address for the record, and limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. Your participation is welcome. So with that, we'll begin. Kaylee Elizabeth Gerber.
Good morning, school board members. I am Kaylee Geeper from Groveland. I agree to changing the dress code. We are only students and we only have so much authority. We would like to ask if you could put a survey up for Lake County that is accessible for students and parents alike. The way we are told to hide our bodies is unacceptable. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Then we have Rosalind Cronin Miller.
Good evening, school board members. My name is Rosalie Cronin Miller, and I'm in Howie in the Hills, and we as students in Lake County would like to see changes to the guidelines to the dress code. The general guidelines for students, in particular females, are unrealistic, arbitrarily enforced, and unfair. The particular concern are the items like shorts having to be no more than 4 inches above the crease of the knee. No tank tops and sleeveless style dresses and bosses are common in corporate America. We have teachers and other school board employees that wear said clothing, and these are not distracting and would provide with more comfortable dress options. Dress codes vary by school, grade level, and administration, and worst of all, by student. You may stop one student, usually female, while another student walking with that student, you stopped to go on about their day, and they're both wearing the same thing. This is causing to be very confused, stress to parents and students alike, causing anxiety and negative body issues with our young ladies, calling girls out for dress code violations, a negative impact on class time, self-esteem, and relationship building with teachers and admin. Stylish and appropriate clothing means that meets our current guidelines are difficult or near impossible to find. Our girls are forced to wear jeans in nearly 100-degree weather, simply to avoid being embarrassed for clothing of their choice. Research shows that people with negative body images have a greater tendency to develop eating disorders and suffer from depression, low self-esteem, and obsession with weight loss. Additionally, this may be, and most importantly, we're sending the wrong message for our sons. These young men should be taught to respect and support their female peers. Our boys should not be sent with the message that the adults around them, they feel as they are incapable of treating females with respect. We are asking the board to revise the current dress code, including SAC members and students who are dedicated to this cause specifically. The goal here is to create a dress code that is not only acceptable, but anxiety-free for our students. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you both for coming out. Well done. Then we have Mrs. Danny Page.
Danny Page with Inside Claremont. So just as with Edwards debacle, the school district and some staff are yet again in violation of the Florida Administrative Code, specifically Rule 6A-10.081, titled Principles of Professional Conduct for the Education Profession of Florida. This rule does, in fact, apply to athletic coaches, by the way, because they hold a certificate with the Florida Department of Education. That being said, according to the allegations, Mr. Farnsworth, Linda Shepard, and Coach Campbell of LMHS would be in violation of the following of Rule 6A, Section 2, subsection A1, shall make reasonable effort to protect the student from conditions harmful to learning and/or to the student's mental and/or physical health and/or safety. In Section 2, subsection A5, shall not intentionally expose a student to unnecessary embarrassment or disparagement. And in part, subsection 7, shall make reasonable effort to assure that each student is protected from harassment or discrimination. Now, in light of the statements I received per another coach that has since quit because of Campbell, he'd be in violation of Section 2, subsection C4, which in part states shall not engage in harassment or discriminatory conduct which unreasonably interferes with individuals' performance of professional or work responsibilities, which creates a hostile, intimidating, abusive, offensive, or oppressive environment. I think making a female coach cry pretty much covers that. No? The principal of LMHS, along with Assistant Superintendent Farnsworth, would also be in violation of Section 2, subsection C12. And to save time, I'll let you look that one up for yourselves. But most importantly, however, in Florida Statute 1012.796, subsection F5 and 1D4, which Mr. Farnsworth may want to look up personally. As you all are aware, this isn't my first time up here fighting for the safety of your students and even some of your staff. You'd think that would happen with Edwards and even previous teachers. You would have learned your lesson with proper vetting. In closing, I thought it important that you know I have been given an excellent opportunity to write an op-ed on your poor vetting processes and their horrific repercussions to a source that has the reputation for making things go viral to the extent of Tucker Carlson, Fox Business, Candace Owens, and Sean Hannity, to name a few. And P.S., the gentleman over here to my left filming, he works for InfoWars. Since your district refuses to investigate this matter, Professional Practices in Tallahassee will be in receipt of the allegations and lies on Campbell's application by tomorrow. I'm not one to beg someone to do the right thing, but I am one to do the right thing. And I can only hope that this board would do the same and stop children from getting unnecessarily hurt by bad hiring decisions. Good evening.
Thank you. Kathy Smith.
Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Good.
Elizabeth had a prior engagement, so she couldn't be here. But we want to thank the district for working with us to collaborate on instructional concerns. Elizabeth and I will continue to communicate and work with the district while also advocating for our educators. Some felt the need to come and speak tonight about items and things in their classroom and the urgency to support the educators platform Lake Leap by using ESSER and ARP funds, which can transform our schools. Instructional staff submitted information over the last 4 months to help develop the plan. Some of the items include ways to support our experienced teachers and teacher retention, funding additional workers like family school liaisons to build relationships and connect families with community resources, as well as creating a space for labor management conversations at the worksite level to create site-based strategic plans. We know the legislators have created a divide between our experienced teachers and our new teachers, and we appreciate the board addressing this compression issue in your legislative priorities. Our educators are still struggling with the increased workload and learning loss due to COVID. So let's work together to provide better working conditions and increase compensation for them. Our instructional staff are also struggling to make ends meet with the current inflation. They want to voice their concerns and explain their stories in person. Please reach out to us as a resource as we continue to collaborate to address educator concerns and develop potential solutions to the challenges that we all face. Educators need support and less workload because we know that teacher working conditions are student learning conditions. We have an opportunity to make history together. The American Rescue Plan is the single largest one-time federal investment in education in the history of this country. Let's use it to transform our district, take a leap towards building the schools our students deserve. It is often said that if you want to find a solution that works, go to the people that are closest to the problem. To identify solutions on how to create schools that magnetize a high-quality educator workforce, we must listen and learn from the educators who work in them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Smith. Tiffany Boland? Oh. Jewel Hand? Kim Cochran? Kochem? Oh, I'm sorry, did I say Mike? Okay, Mike, come on up.
Hi, my name's Mike Cochran. I'm a new music teacher over at Rhymes this year. My address is 2972 Glenda Place in Wildwood. I have taught in 3 states at this point in my career. I've been teaching since 2003, even though I'm new to Lake County. And I'm thankful, actually, life happened and I found myself in Florida. And I wasn't sure what my teaching career was going to look like right away. And I actually found something very quickly here in Lake County that I'm pretty happy with. But, as many of my colleagues are here tonight and many who aren't here with us, we are concerned, like Kathy said, about our ability to make ends meet in the current climate financially. I was very thankful to get the position, but then I did find out that I was going to be making 45% of my previous salary before moving here. And while I love teaching and while I don't put a real number value on that, that's a life-altering change, 45% of your salary to do the same work. In any other field, I would expect that would mean less hours or crossing some things off my list of tasks that are expected of me. But in education, that doesn't work. That's not how teachers operate. I can't give my students 45% of myself. I won't give my students 45% of myself. Children who I teach in Leesburg that go home to, sometimes heartbreaking situations that they have to deal with, I can't give them 45% of myself. And I just hope that we're not exploiting the selflessness of teachers because we don't know how to turn that off. I've been a building representative for the union for most of my teaching career in different parts of the country. And in my year here, I've heard some pretty jarring things from teachers. As a building rep for the union, I get to meet them and hear some of their stories. To hear teachers tell me that they're applying for government assistance while working full-time. To hear teachers say that they're not sure if they can insure their children while working a full-time with 1 or 2 or more college degrees. These are jarring things to hear as someone kind of on the outside looking in. I'm new here. To hear teachers who have decades of experience say, I would make more money if I quit my job and reapplied. That is not a way to retain people. That's not a way to get the best people. And it's concerning. And like I said, I really do appreciate the opportunity. And I hope that we can work together and find a way, because our teaching conditions really do impact student learning conditions. And when people are worried about things like that in their personal life, it's tough to give that 110%, even though we try every day. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. Louisa Bell?
Good evening, Superintendent Cornegie and board members. My name is Louisa Bell. I live in Tavares, Florida. I teach first grade, and I was recently named Teacher of the Year. I am here this evening to fight for my future as a highly qualified, highly effective educator in Lake County. According to the district's plan, it states that students are the #1 priority. Let me explain just how much I prioritize my students. I show up 40 minutes before my contract starts. I make some anchor charts, make sure my focus wall is updated, prepare 2 classrooms that currently have no teacher yet, print my lesson plans, lay out morning work, pull out the makeup assessments for students who are absent, and make sure interventions are ready to go. The bell rings at 8 o'clock, my contract starts. I am present to greet my students as they enter the classroom. I do this because my students come first. I teach my heart out for 2.5 hours and it's lunchtime. I've learned that I can scarf a meal in 15 minutes just to get more work done. I do this because my students come first. After lunch is my 45-minute planning period. I drop my students off at specials, use the restroom finally, and stop to speak with the guidance counselor about a student. 35 minutes left. Make copies, pull out workbook pages, and check in with the subs teaching in the 2 classes without a teacher yet. 10 minutes left. Fill out paperwork to add a student to MTSS and fill out the ESE teacher input form. Pack take-home folders. Out of time. Not one single minute spent on planning. I do this because my students come first. I will teach my heart out for 2 more hours. Dismissal begins. My last student leaves at 3:20. My contract ends in 10 minutes. I make more anchor charts, check classwork, and plan who needs remediation. I really need to call that parent. I check my emails, find out that I haven't submitted my timesheets, and I need to input MTSS data for 3 students. I really need to call that parent too. I prepare workstations, make sure every student is passing their iReady lessons, grade assessments, and figure out when I am going to input those grades. I look up at the clock and it's 5:30 and I still have to update my focus wall for the next day, complete timesheets, email a classroom weekly update, and make sure sub-plans are ready for the 2 classes that do not have a teacher yet. I'll just take it home because it has to get done. Repeat all of that and include collaborative team meetings, ESE meetings, MTSS meetings, and conferences. I do this because my students come first. I wonder what it would be like in my classroom if I showed up right at 8 and left at 3:30. Realistically, how much would I be able to get done if I didn't put in the work on the weekends? I take a lot of my personal time to be a highly effective teacher, and I'm exhausted, mentally and physically. I value my students, but who values me as an educator? I can't put my students first and work my contract. The district's plan is to attract high-quality candidates to fill employee vacancies, but don't forget the many high-quality or highly qualified, effective educators already working in this district. I don't see how I can sustain a career like this for 22 more years. What is going to be done to keep us teaching in this district? How are ESSER funds going to be used to address working conditions and compensate teachers for what they deserve? Educators have the most immediate impact on students, and you can't put students first when you put educators last.
Thank you very much. Patty Grinnell. Did I see you at Renaissance?
You did. Good evening, Superintendent Cornegie and distinguished members of the board. My name is Patty Grinnell. I live in Mount Dora, and I teach at Triangle Elementary. 2 years ago, about this time, I stood before you to talk about the subject of veteran teacher salaries. At that time, I commended you for your vision to make Lake County a destination district. I'm here to tell you my story tonight. Until about 18 years ago, I was a stay-at-home mom raising 2 children, one of which had special needs. It was through raising my special needs child that I saw both the best and the worst in special education. Don't worry, that was in Orange County. In 2005, I turned my experience into a career. When I became a special ed teacher, I was so happy. I was serving both my students and their parents. I had found my purpose in life. I felt guilty for being paid for something I enjoyed so much. I even said once, I love this so much, I would do this for nothing. I was only joking. I lost my place. What I didn't know and expect was that I would struggle to live on a teacher salary. Every year I sign up to teach after-school tutoring and the 6 weeks of summer school. I haven't had a real vacation in years. I'm exhausted. Last year, I hit my breaking point when I was trying to manage my self-contained class of 12 students with only 1 teacher assistant. When it was time to administer the state assessments, which must be done one-on-one, I couldn't get a sub to come run my class because no one was available. I was under enormous pressure to get all the assessments done in a very short testing window. The physical, mental, and emotional strain almost caused me to quit. But instead, I took a new position this year as a support facilitator. I found my joy again, going into the general education classrooms and working with struggling students. And yet, I'm still impacted by the shortage of subs because I've been called on about 10 times this year to fill in for absent teachers because no one is available to sub. You know what that does to the 30 students on my roster? They don't get the support they need that is required in their IEP, which you know is a legal document. So now I'm out of compliance. Believe it or not, I'm old enough to retire. But I'm afraid I won't be able to live on the retirement pension because I now make the salary of a teacher, brand new teacher in Lake County with 0 years experience. I have 17. We can't put students first if we don't invest in our teachers. I'd like to close with this.
Yep.
It is unproductive to do the same thing, the same way, and expect different results. It is only by bringing forth new solutions to these issues that Lake County will ever become a destination district. Thank you.
Thank you. Renee Isabel?
Thank you for your time and for listening to the teachers. I'm a teacher in Eustis at 4th grade elementary school. I'm also a resident of Eustis. I also left corporate America to become a teacher many years ago, took quite a cut in salary because I thought it was a mission that was worthwhile. If our country doesn't have a good education, it doesn't prosper. I believe strongly in that, as do all the people in this room that are teachers. We know that. But at the time that I joined, there was a step plan. I thought eventually my salary would get up maybe close to what I had left in corporate America as a trainer of adults. But the economy failed or had trouble, and teachers were asked to make the sacrifice and to stop the steps until the economy got strong again. And we did, because we love our kids. And we believed the promises that it would come back. And as you know, that didn't come back. But we keep working, we keep going. At one point when my 3 children were young and still in the household, we qualified for reduced lunch as a teacher on my salary. Now that my children are grown and out of school, my son in his first job as a manager of a restaurant started at $10,000 more than his mother's making as a 17-year veteran teacher. We're the educators of this society. We're supposed to be the smart ones, the ones that teach everybody else how to do their job. Surely we can find a way to make it work, to pay the staff what they are worth. You've heard their stories, you know how much time they're putting in. We are trusting you to make that commitment and to find the money in the budget to pay people what they're worth. We cannot be a destination district if our staff has to leave and go elsewhere to make a living. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jacob Wolf?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight, and thank you for your service to the county. My name is Jacob Wolf. I live in Tavares, and I'm a teacher at Leesburg High School. I've been teaching at Leesburg for 4 years, and I've been in the education profession for 5. Prior to my experience in the education, I was a social worker. But my degree in college was in education, so I felt a calling to go back to that. And I absolutely love my profession. I love my campus. I love my coworkers. I love my administration. I love teaching. I love the students. It's my calling. I love it. But I want to talk to you about what has become obvious to me in the last 5 years of my time as a teacher. And that is that considering everything that we are expected to do, there is no doubt in my mind that we need more time, paid time, for our planning of lessons and common planning with fellow teachers, our grading, research papers, essays, DBQs, and the like, our calling of parents, and our student intervention and remediation. For far too long, teachers and those in the teaching profession have been guilted into volunteering their own free time in order to do what must be done to be an effective teacher. Personally, I can speak that on average, every weekend, I have about 10 to 12 hours of homework. And I call it that because I tell my students, if I give you homework, I'm giving myself 10 times the amount of homework. So they know that. So, that's kind of my on average weekend, 10 to 12 hours between Saturday and Sunday, and that's just my time volunteering. I want you and all of us here in this room to ask ourselves, how effective do we want the teachers to be in Lake County? Because if you truly care about the quality of education being received by the students of this county, teachers would be given proper amount of paid time for planning, grading, and contacting parents. We need more planning time, please. And I want to leave you with this thought tonight. How can students be placed first if educators are placed last?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Allie, reason, hearing, I probably really butchered that.
Call me what my students call me. It's Mr. P. My name is Ali Rizapira. I am a geometry and pre-calculus teacher at Leesburg, or not Leesburg, I live in Leesburg, Mount Dora High School. And I've been a classroom instructor since 2017. Came from Seminole, now I'm in Lake. I am a teacher, mentor, activities director, cheerleader, and counselor, but I barely get paid for the teacher part in itself. Myself, along with my colleagues, easily surpass the hours, or our contract hours weekly. My job is to inspire hope and prepare students to be able to live a successful life, but I cannot do that when I'm losing hope in the profession as the days go by. I'm emotionally, physically, and mentally exhausted from the amount of time and energy I put into my work. I consistently put in about 120% of myself, and I do not get that back in wages or security. We as a district cannot put students first when our educators are put last. I have one of my pre-calculus seniors say, how do you feel about students, or how do you feel about teachers being significantly underpaid in this state? And another one of my students, another one of my geometry students told me, Mr. Beer, you cannot pay me enough to do what you do. And I believe him. I know the struggle is visible when even my students know that educators are being grifted. I have a passion for my profession because I care about the future and for my community, but I am afraid that in years to come, I will not be able to afford to be an educator. Rising costs of living with no proper adjustments to salaries will leave me in the dust. Educators are already a dying breed as an occupation, and with no salary adjustments will make this occupation extinct. When our educators are on food stamps and their children can qualify for Pell Grants, the struggle for fair wages is not about opulence, but one of getting educators out of poverty. My goal is fairness, not luxury. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, in support of the comments that were said tonight, we have Mark Weber, Karen Lee, Jackie Holmes. In support, right? Megan Romano, in support. Kim Lease, in support. And Ellen Didion, is she in the room? She filled out a card in support, but I will tell you, she gave my son the gift of lifelong learning, and that will always be appreciated. Thank you, Ellen. Okay. That concludes that portion. Now we have Neely Sinai.
Good evening, board, and I just want to say thank you for the great job that you're doing for Lake County. My name is Neely Sinai, and I live in Mount Dora, and I want to thank the teachers. You have a hard job, and I've been sitting here listening, and it's really quite amazing. We're living in very difficult times, aren't we? And it's going to be a challenge for everyone to unite and listen and, try to accommodate everybody's needs. So I'm here with a few people, and we started the chapter of Lake County Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. It's a national association started by Sheriff Mack, and he has the support of people like General Flynn. And so because we're living in times when the citizens need to get involved and participate in democracy, this has been a learning experience for us, and we're continuing to learn. And the purpose is to keep the Constitution constitutional. And so we're being mentored as members of this organization, and we're learning. And it's been really enjoyable. And so we're here basically because we're concerned about the federal COVID funds that are being distributed to cities, counties, and municipalities across the country. So I don't know if you're aware of it, I'm sure you are, but this, as we're just learning and we're being mentored to be good citizens. So as I understand it, this last round of COVID funds that are being distributed to all the municipalities, cities, and counties come with a contract with the federal government that if you take these millions of dollars that all the cities and counties need right now, right, for your salaries and your budget, that you agree to enforce all the federal mandates, vaccine mandates, any other mandates that they could just decide on to all the employees, all the employees and contractors. Now, I know it's not going to happen because we have a fantastic constitutional sheriff, which I'd like to give a shout out to him and thank him. And it's very important that we keep Lake County. We can't be complicit. We're very fortunate. We live in a great county, but we do have to make sure that it continues for years, for our children, for our grandchildren. And without the Constitution, we're done for it. So I'll just leave you with that.
I don't want you to leave thinking that is accurate, because it is not accurate.
What part's
So,
not accurate?
The part about the strings, that we have to follow all these mandates and the mandated vaccines and all that business, it's just not accurate.
Well, you know
I'll be
what?
happy to
It's-
come and speak to y'all.
Yeah, I talked with Matt Gates, and he agreed with me.
I'm sure he did.
Yeah, and he says that it is true. It is true, so maybe we can have a meeting with him.
I'd be happy to meet with you.
Okay.
Okay, thank y'all. Okay, that ends public comments. Okay, Superintendent?
Oh, we're on reports. So I am very proud tonight to introduce Mr. Denko Bryant, one of our students, who is the chair of the Superintendent Student Advisory Committee, and we had our first meeting recently, and he's going to give you all a quick update.
Good evening, Chairman Mathias, Superintendent, members of the board. So the Superintendent Student Advisory Committee met for its first time on October 26th. At that meeting, we selected our officers, and those include Caitlin Blythe, the president at East Ridge, who will serve as our vice chair, Michelle McCoy, the president at Lake Mineola, who will serve as our secretary. And the other presidents include Cole Baxley at Eustis, Tyler Hines at Tavares, Haley Johnson at Umatilla, Kendall Henderson at Mount Dora, and Jasmine LeBud at South Lake. In response to the devious lick challenges on the social media site TikTok, we have created a challenge of our own. For the month of November, high schools in the district will participate in Thank a Teacher Month. They will compete against each other to see which school can generate the most thank you notes by the end of the month. That school will receive $1,000 to benefit the students. The student governments at each school will use their school announcements, social media platforms, and other ways to make students aware of not only the dangers of social media challenges, but also the behavioral actions, the disciplinary actions, that will follow if they continue to participate in such behavior. As far as dress code, so there were some students here tonight, and me and the superintendent were kind of smiling at each other because we knew this was on the agenda. So the other presidents throughout the county have overwhelmingly heard the students ask for revisions to the dress code. Each president is meeting with their student government to discuss proposed changes, and then after discussing with their principals, it'll be discussed at our next meeting, and recommendations will be compiled to bring to the board. ESSER funds. So each president is collecting recommendations from their student body as well as their student government on how ESSER 3 funds should be spent. 2 members of the SSAC, myself and Caitlin Blythe, the vice chair, have been selected to serve on the district's committee. At our next meeting, we will also discuss technology concerns for dual enrollment students, including Zoom and block sites for Lake Sumter courses. Mr. Weeks, the executive director of the RT department, will attend our next meeting, which is scheduled for November 17th at 5 p.m. to discuss these issues and provide some ideas for resolving technology. And lastly, I just want to thank the board for approving the creation of the advisory council so quickly. In any room where decisions regarding students are made, I believe it's important that the students be involved in the decision-making, and I am glad that this board agrees. Thank you all.
Thank you very much. Outstanding work. Mr. Johnson?
I don't have anything.
Okay, Superintendent?
All right, so we are on approval of the consent agenda items. And I recommend approval of items 8.01 to 8.10, and then 8.12 to 10.02.
Board, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? 5-0. Okay. Discussion?
Johnson, we're on the public hearing, we're on the public hearing discussion item.
Excuse me, item 11.01 is a public hearing on the 2020 Census School Board Member Proposed Districts. If there's anyone here that wishes to speak to this particular issue, please come forward to the podium. Mr. Chairman, I don't see anyone coming forward and believe it appropriate to close the public hearing portion.
Okay, thank you. Superintendent, you have a recommendation?
Recommendation, I think tonight was just the public hearing. We've already presented it to the board at the workshop,
Oh, okay.
and so
So we're not
I
gonna do
don't
anything.
believe there's any recommendation to be had
Okay,
this evening.
no action. We just heard from people. Okay.
Really? We don't vote on it?
Right, not yet, because I
You
think
will.
the two.
You
Yeah, there's two
will.
public hearings.
I thought
Yeah.
hearing voted, and then 28 days hearing vote.
No, we got to hear it twice.
2 hearings and then a vote.
Okay, so all we did was have public vote.
All right.
So we're good.
Fine with me.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Well, first I want to thank all the teachers who came out tonight and shared their stories with us. And I will tell you, I was very impressed with your Lake Leak plan. I had a chance to meet with Ms. Smith and Ms. Emery last week. They attended on your behalf the ESSER 3 Stakeholder Committee meeting that Mr. Dinko Bryant mentioned a few minutes ago, and had a chance to go through they presented many of those items as part of the priorities for our plan. So I think when Ms. Smith first spoke a few minutes ago, she talked about bringing solutions, and really that's what that plan was a list of solutions. And so I really appreciated that and the opportunity to go through and hear from teachers what your priorities were. Many of those were collective priorities, and that's why they're on our legislative priorities. And as we've talked about, we're going to be banding together to head up to Tallahassee and working with our lobbyists to address these issues. One of those being that compression adjustment that we know that we so desperately need in order to help restore some of the disparities between fill in the gaps between some of the issues regarding our veteran teachers and our new teachers. So I want to say thank you to you and for your leadership and to your team that's brought that Lake Leak plan to us. We did have our first ESSER 3 meeting. We had all stakeholder groups represented. That was on Friday. Lots of great discussion, lots of priorities added to the list. And so today we began piling those lists into what will soon be a website that Ms. Owens will be launching that will give all stakeholders an opportunity to go in and look at the priorities by classification, focusing on some of the requirements of the plan, one of those being to address learning loss of students, facility upgrades, as well as other ideas for improving teaching and learning. We'll ask all stakeholders to prioritize some of that list and then provide any other items that they would like. And then based on that, we'll be bringing to you all at a workshop on the 29th of November our recommended plan, which is then due the following week to the Department of Education. So I want to thank all of those who came out and have part of that stakeholder group, and they came prepared, they came with priorities, and a lot of work being done in advance. So it was a very good meeting. Also, in my comments tonight, I want to congratulate Mr. Mike Randolph of Leesburg High School, who was selected by his peers as our Principal of the Year, and Ms. Stacia Warner at Beverly Shores Elementary as our AP of the Year. I also want to remind you that we are closed on Veterans Day, the 11th. And thank everybody who came out to the Renaissance Fair and supported all of our Education Foundation and all of the things that they do for our schools last weekend. And it'll be, if you missed it last weekend, please come out this coming Saturday and Sunday and attend the Ren Fair. It's always a fun event. So that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Superintendent. Board member comments, Mrs. Luke?
I wanted to just let everybody know that on Wednesday night, the Eustis High School softball team is hosting the MVP from the Women's College World Series this past summer. Her name is Odyssey Alexander. She was the pitcher for JMU, and they were kind of a Cinderella story, a team that wasn't really known. You know, you wouldn't anticipate them being successful as they were. They made it to the Women's College World Series and actually fared very well, and her story is incredible. And the goal behind the program was to raise funds for the new softball field, but in doing so, we've invited young female athletes from Central Florida area to listen to a very inspiring collegiate level female athlete, and they're also providing a question and answer session with current and past collegiate level athletes, both baseball and softball players, and they'll have several auction items that are really unique, and it'll be a lot of fun. And so if anybody is interested in going, it's not just for local teams. If anybody has an athlete that wants to hear it, the tickets can be purchased for $25 a piece. And we did it on Wednesday night because the students don't have school on Thursday, so they can have a little bit of fun. So it's the event starts at 6:30. I think the doors open at the Venetian in Leesburg. The doors open around 5:45, I think, but there's tons of information on social media. They have a Facebook account under Eustis High School Softball. They have an Instagram account. They've been trying to really get the word out, so there's lots of details on social media. So that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Dodd?
Yeah. So quick and easy. First comment is calendar appointee. My nominee is Jennifer Royston. Natalie, I'll get you her contact information so you can share that out. Second comments, and I think are appropriate given tonight's showing of teachers who have come out to speak tonight, because their comments are not new, their stories are not new. We've heard these time and time again, and for me, this has been a bit of a struggle for me ever since I came to the board, that I've been destined to try to solve this dilemma of teachers working for free, of teachers not having what they need, of teachers being significantly underpaid for the job that they do. I've been excited about the superintendent's vision of making this a destination district, and I think that's really challenging for us to do when our pay ranks where it is. The Central Florida School Board Coalition had sent out a survey of all the districts, and of the 14 districts, we ranked 12th in the starting pay for teachers and ranked 11th out of 14 for the ending pay. Time and time again, we've made this our legislative priority to focus on this, that we have constantly seen our hands be tied with what we can do for veteran teachers, and our hands are tied until we raise the starting salary to the $47.5, which we are, based on the pace that the state has set for funding us, seems to be like maybe a decade from now. I don't know, but I don't think these people can wait that long. We heard some comments tonight that it's unproductive to do the same thing over and over and over again, and I know that it's been our legislative priority. So it's doing the same thing over and over again. I think we've referenced it sometimes. Maybe we need to sue the state. I want to have that discussion just honestly in workshop and say, let's sue the state for the funding that we need to pay our teachers the money that they deserve. Because I think that the funding mechanism puts Lake County at a huge disadvantage when we have consistently ranked 60th or 62nd or even 66 out of 67 counties in funding. How in the world can we pay these people a competitive wage compared to our neighboring counties here in Central Florida? We can't, because they don't give us the funding to do so, and they need to fix that funding formula so we can pay these people. So I don't know, is that a workshop topic that we can add? Sue the state?
I'm certainly game for it. I've only mentioned it like 3 times.
I am 100% on board.
Okay, Mrs. Cunningham.
Good evening. Certainly, having been a teacher, I certainly appreciate the fact that teachers need enough money to be able to survive. I'm really going to cause horror in the room when I tell you, when I started in Lake County, I made $11,000 a year. So yeah, whoa. So while we've made progress, we are certainly not where we should be. And I assure you that I, along with my other fellow board members, are very committed to doing what we can to make sure that you received comparable wages. We certainly heard you, and we appreciate you taking the time to come. I'm always happy to hear students because I believe that the whole system exists for students. So for those of you that were brave enough to come up tonight and share with us, I appreciate that personally. And I can tell you that Mr. Bryant there I've known a long time, and I assure you have a good leader in him, and your causes and concerns will be heard. So I certainly ask that you just be patient and I'm sure we will be able to do something that you'll be happy with. With that said, I'd just like to also share that I'm very proud and very pleased to recognize our Principal of the Year and our Assistant Principal of the Year. Those two jobs are very hard jobs to have too, I can tell you, because I've done them. It's very difficult. But in the end, it's all worth it, because as one of our guest teachers told us tonight, people in education do not do it for the money. We certainly need the amounts that we need to pay our bills, but that's not our calling for the profession. So those of you that choose to come out and support us and share with us how you feel, please know that we appreciate it, and you're always welcome to share those things. So I think that's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Dr. Burns?
Yeah, I had, my thoughts were really swirling, so I actually wrote them down, so I'm gonna try and be a compassionate truth teller tonight. This is the history I know, as I know it, and as I've looked it up, and there's plenty of resources if anyone wants it, so I'm really sorry that everyone needed to be here today. I'm sorry that you feel unheard, and I wanna validate that you are underpaid, overworked, and you are exploited. What is even more frustrating is that I am now powerless to change your situation. Let me explain. This takes some history. Florida has been working towards privatization of schools for decades. What you are living is actually the fruition of many, many years of plans. What I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that the system isn't broken. This is how our legislature has designed the system to work. This is their goal. We are seeing the end stages of the privatization of Florida. The legislature took away the teachers' right to strike over 40 years ago after the last teacher strike in like 69. In order to privatize the schools, they also needed to obliterate the unions because any large voting bloc is an obstacle, because defunding the public schools and increasing vouchers aren't particularly popular opinions, actually. People like their schools. Like, we all like our schools. In 2011, the legislature demanded that teachers not have tenure. They can't be paid by expertise or experience, but they must be paid by merit based on test scores. That was a huge second blow. 2 years ago, the union and the board both lost basically our right to bargain. Our money comes to us as a big pot. They tell us how to break it up, and the only thing we can bargain is maybe working conditions and little stuff around the edges, right? We're like, we can tinker. They're holding the purse strings. And that was a huge power shift to the legislature. So we do know that this is broken, but we don't know how to fix it because we didn't break it. In the last 5 years, the legislature has put forward many bills, including the Constitutional Committee. They're trying to get rid of school boards because we provide some sort of public accountability, and they keep trying to take away us, our wages, our bargaining power, and they can do this because there really aren't any checks and balances left in our state. The easiest way to show privatization is if you guys just look at the crazy amount of voucher bills every year, and they do change their names so that it confuses people, and there's there's more targets to have people fight against. Like that's part of the strategy. But you can absolutely see the push for privatization, and it's gotten bigger and bolder every year since the pandemic. Every year they take away more money from public schools to give private vouchers, and so far over $1 billion in public tax money has been poured into private vouchers each year. So if $7 billion is the huge windfall from the feds, $7 billion or $1 billion taken out of Florida every single year is a big loss, right, out of our education system. The people writing these policies, this is my opinion, but they don't have your altruistic values. This is from the Washington Post. A former think tank lobbyist said, quote, "They want the weakest, leanest government possible in order to protect the interests of the few wealthy individuals and families who want to protect their extraction of wealth from the rest of us." They essentially feel that any attempt to take their money is a personal affront or a moral affront even. The final goal isn't really to just give everyone their own vouchers. It's really to turn the system into the college system and then make us take out loans to pay for K-12 education. And that way, obviously, we're pushing more wealth up. And then, right, basically, the simple fact is none of us, at least me for sure, we don't have the power to fix this. To give you raises, the market is demanding and that you deserve. You don't need actually a raise. You need a full realignment of your salary structure. And that's something that has to come from the state. We don't have the funds. The union and us have been going back for years. We've done it publicly, we've done it privately. We don't have the funds. So you guys, the ones that are teachers and parents, need to go to the legislatures. I'm trying to go, a second year a board member, it's useless. If you're a parent, you actually have power. But the legislature has the power in this, not us. So that's all I had to say. And I hope you understand that I'm trying to educate and not, I'm not trying to tear you guys down. I'm really on your side. So, thank you. Yes.
That was quite informative.
So I think that to play off both board members' comments, I think that particularly you folks that are new, that Lake County, we rank 57th out of 67 counties in per student funding. And yet we're 19th in student population, actually 18th in student population. So, no, we don't do questions, sorry. I just wanted you guys to know, so we'll start a conversation. I'd love to come and speak with y'all. So tonight, as we get ready to close, I just want to thank this board for their continued support. This is my last night as chairman. The meeting right after this will be we'll be electing the next chair for next year. It is always a pleasure to serve the citizens of Lake County, but especially to serve as the chair of a board that I know with all of my heart is committed to the well-being of each and every one of our kids, our teachers, our staff. It has been an honor. And so with that, I close the meeting. If you stand by.